Looks like there was more coordination behind the scenes between the deep state and the Democrats on this whole Ukraine situation. We'll talk about that. And also, the anonymous book is out, and people say it stinks. We'll break down just why that's the case. And some crazy protesters get up in Buck's face on the streets of New York City. That and more coming up. Welcome to the Buck Sexton Show, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Great to be with you on this chilly but lovely Friday here in NYC and across the country and around the world. Thank you again to those watching on Pluto Channel 248, the first. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do. And also, podcast numbers are growing because you're telling people about the show. It is on every day on iTunes, on the iHeart app. Subscribe. The podcast drops 3 Eastern. You can listen to it whenever you like. Listen to it in drive time. So, before I get into the latest on the back and forth over Ukraine and impeachment and this political fight that has become an obsession of the media and an obsession of the political class, I wonder how much most Americans really care about this, although I suppose we'll just have to wait and see what comes of it all. I want to tell you that last night I went to a gala here in New York City for the New York Young Republican Club. It was a great event. The guys who put it together really made it all happen, and it was fun. It was like a conservative Avengers reunion kind of situation. We had my man Raheem Kassam there, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, Steve Bannon was there. I got to say, Bannon gave a keynote. And I've met Steve before, and I'm familiar with some of his work. His speech the mic didn't work. So Bannon stands up, and there must have been almost 300 people, I think, were there last night. It was 250 or 260 in the ballroom. And Bannon stood up, and the mic was just on the fritz. So he just said, all right, I'm just going to project, this is what a pro does, right? That's how you do things. It would have been, look, I'm just going to say it would have been my move. You don't want to keep being testing, touching the mic. And you lose people if there's too much of that. And the room was small enough that he could project. So he stood up and he gave a very good speech in which he said, we are losing right now. He said, we're not losing in a micro policy sense, but we are losing if we don't understand how close we are to continuing to lose ground to China, for example, lose ground to socialists in our own country. And just because Donald Trump has been a moment of pushback and fight back against all of that, it doesn't mean that if you take a step back and look at the totality of what's going on, that the situation for conservatism and for individual liberty and constitutionalism in this country is looking good. If you were to plot this on a longer XY axis, it is trending against liberty. It is trending toward collectivism. This is not what he said. This is my interpretation of some of Steve's remarks. And he also gave just his review of what it was like going into the final weeks of the election. Because I believe 3 years ago, was it 3 years ago today? November 8th, at least 3 years ago, was when we had our first day. Was it the first day of the election, the first day after the election? It's been 3 years. It's rather amazing that this time has gone by so quickly. Raheem Kassam Pasobek, Bannon was there, Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer was there, a bunch of other folks Rob Smith, great guy. It's funny, I saw Rob in the New York City subway in the morning randomly, and then I saw him at night at the gala. So even New York with 8 million people can feel rather small sometimes. Well, while it was a fantastic night, my little brother was there. He's looking very dapper as always. While it was a great night for all involved, there was a contingent outside of protesters, and they had clearly studied who the invited and VIP guests or whatever you want to call them, essentially media people or those with some public profile. And it was also a black tie event, or black tie preferred, so most people were wearing. I mean, Bannon didn't wear black tie, don't worry. Bannon wore what Bannon wears, which is very specific to Bannon. But there were people who were outside, and there must have been about 60 or 70 protesters, I'd say, outside of this event. And they, yelled epithets as I was walking past them. Things, alt right and racist and things like that. And then I have to tell you, one of them actually jumped out from the crowd. Now, there were police there. So there were police standing right there, which is interesting because, on the one hand, I know some of you are saying, well, if someone got up in my face in this way, I would, well, if the cops are there, someone yells at you and you escalate that situation, you're the one who's going to get the silver bracelets on you. So you just have to walk into the building and not pay attention to it. But there was one individual in particular who kind of got up and actually stood in front of me to block my way. And he was a white male, probably late 40s, early 50s. And I don't think that, let's just say he was not a rugged-looking fellow, and he looked like he'd spent a lot of time indoors playing battle chess by himself. And I had this guy in my face, and he was screaming in my face, "You are not welcome here. I'm a member." It was at the Yale Club. "I'm a member. You are not welcome here," screaming in my face. And I just kind of looked at him and, smiled actually and just walked around him. And it was so interesting because my mindset, at first it was, what a clown. And there was a little part of me that was like, you're lucky that there are people here because I am somebody and I should probably get this out of the way now in case there ever is an incident. I don't deal with aggression usually by just being cool about it. I may seem very mellow and relaxed when I do this show, which I am, and I think I'm a very fair fellow and never look to start any problems, but I do not react passively to aggression. That said, I initially had that moment that I think a lot of guys in the audience and gals in the audience would, where it was, this guy's lucky that, because the worst thing you can do as a conservative, of course, and apologies for my voice, obviously I was out a little bit late last night, there was some mezcal involved, but the worst thing, actually it was tequila, it wasn't mezcal, if we're really going to be fair. I asked for mezcal and they didn't have it, so I wanted there to be mezcal, but there was just tequila. If you do anything, if you say anything, if you curse at them, they're all just hoping to create some incident that then they can put on. I saw someone call Huff Poop this morning on Twitter, which I had never seen that before. That was interesting. But one of those sites, or someone also referred to Vox as pox, like chicken pox. But they're waiting for somebody to overreact and do something bad in a circumstance like that. And so I had I know that, and so I'm just going by them, and I kind of like smiled at some of them just because. But then I was walking the building. I had a couple of other thoughts. I mean, there was this process that went. The initial thing of somebody getting right up in your face who doesn't know you, who's screaming at you, and they targeted me specifically. I mean, Bannon was smart enough to show up later on when they didn't have a permit anymore, so the police weren't there, so you could go in the back door. So some of the other people, I just went in the very beginning of the event. I didn't care. And so they came after me specifically and got right up in my face and yelling at me. And you have that initial feeling of this person is showing aggression. He's lucky I don't take his head off. And then as I walked inside, I just thought, this is really what libs are now. This is who they've turned into. This guy allegedly went to Yale University. It's pouring rain outside. There's an event with people who are, it's a private event, people wearing black tie, and the keynote speakers are military veterans, all three of them, and all of whom served their country in uniform. And it was just not that this really should make any difference to anybody because, but I thought it was interesting. It was a particularly diverse crowd as well, which I just think the left would always say, it's all these white male Republicans. Anybody who was there last night, first of all, obviously it was about half women, but even beyond that, it was actually a diverse room. Not that I feel like we should always have to have that comment, just does every party have to have private party have a diversity quotient? Well, the left seems to like to enforce that kind of thinking. But as we went in, or as I went into the building, I just remember thinking, I talk about these libs on the air and how they're crazy, and it was good to experience this because this was, and it's not the first time, and I get people write horrible things to me. I don't write, I mean, I don't read the stuff that comes in on roll call that's, you're horrible, go blank yourself or go do something terrible to yourself. I don't read because why? I mean, it's not, if it's funny occasionally, I'll read it, but I don't read this stuff where it's just people who are venting spleen. It's not worth hearing for anybody. But as I went in the building, I was thinking, this is real. I mean, people have actually lost it. I mean, I would be so ashamed to show up at a private event and get in the face of a stranger and yell at that person and try to ruin that person's night, which it didn't at all. I had a great night. The Sexton brothers were out on the town. I had tons of friends. We had a fantastic night, so it was great. I would never allow something like this to get in the way of that. But that was the purpose, obviously, was to rattle people and make them feel, like they can't have a moment's peace. This was it was a social event. It had nothing to do with, we weren't raising money for a candidate or anything. And it is a reminder that these people they are crazy. I mean, they really have taken politics to a level that I would not just be ashamed personally. I would be ashamed to be friends with someone. I'd be ashamed to be associated with somebody who would wait in the rain outside of a private party to yell. By the way, if I had asked, I mean, I thought about engaging this guy. What do you not like about my positions? You utter moron. But it's not. I'm going to a party. I don't care. It doesn't benefit me. But I'd be ashamed to even be associated with a human being that would do that. And there were 70 of them or so, 50, 60, 70, something like that, waiting outside. That's my estimate. All in a line, placards, the whole thing, and picked people out to try to. And I know that they do this on college campuses, but keep in mind this was not meant to be. We weren't trying to provoke a dialogue with the outside world. This was a private party that some Antifa group in New York found out about, and they sent their lunatics to it. And I'm just gonna say this on the record right now for all the team, because hopefully the corporate folks in the world will always back me on this one. But if something ever happens and I have to lay out one of these guys, I'm just telling you that they started it. Okay, there's zero chance that I started it. So I want to make sure that you have that. That is my alibi from the get-go. If something ever happens and there's a video of me and I have to knock somebody out, they started it. Just so you know, because I know myself, and I would never react unless I was actually physically, personally threatened in that way. But they're crazy, which you saw, and then you also have they're pathetic too. It's such a bizarre, sad, and loser thing to do, to wait outside of a social event and scream at people because what? Because we voted for the same president that half the country voted for? That makes that acceptable? And I would just wonder, do these loser leftists, all libs, all Democrats, all, I'm sure MSNBC and CNN watchers, they probably go on Slate and Vox.com and think they're getting the truth. I mean, there wasn't a single non-leftist in this group of protesters outside. But you have to wonder to yourself, well, would they be okay? What if somebody was having a wedding, at that venue, and Steve Bannon was attending the wedding? Would they wait outside? And, the left really is much closer to the depravity and disgrace of the Westboro Baptist Church, for example, than I think many of us know, because the media is always covering up for them and trying to hide this. But they're not embarrassed by these people, which I think is really noteworthy. I mean, they're not disgusted by people who would wait outside of a private event and get in a stranger's face, someone they know nothing about. And I mean, he wasn't trying to intimidate me, because that would not have worked, but was clearly just trying to be rude. And I got it actually, I think, more aggressively than anybody else. I mean, the other people, they really came after me in particular, because other people were walking in before me, other people that I know from media world. And it's a reminder that as I sit here and I tell you about these things, about how we are going into political trench warfare, we are going into an era now where the gloves have come off and people are ugly and they're nasty and they're mean. and they're crazy, and they're stupid, and they're ignorant, and they're liberals. That's where we are. That's what has become normalized on the left. There's no embarrassment over things like this. There's no sense of shame that these people allegedly represent liberal values. They represent liberal values by shaming people going to a social event. I just would wonder, do they have any boundaries at all? Do they have any respect, any decency whatsoever? The answer is no, of course not. And quite honestly, I'm sure that if they found out that Steve Bannon or some of the other people that were Eric Prince was in attendance as well, if some of them were at I'm sure they would wait outside a wedding and probably spit at the bride. These people are disgusting. They are disgusting. And they're liberals, they're leftists, they adhere to this ideology that we're always told is in resistance to Donald Trump. If this country goes down a very unfortunate and destructive path, which I do have days where I worry about that, I do think the same way that I tell you that if I ever have to defend myself against one of these Antifa lunatics, trust me, it's their fault. If we ever go down the road that I'm hoping is unthinkable, where this country really starts to have political violence in the streets, which happened in the 60s, could happen again. Last night was a reminder that these leftist maniacs, they're the ones that are responsible for it. That much we know ahead of time. All right, let's talk about this whistleblower situation with some revelations on Tucker Carlson's show. Before I actually get into Tucker's show, I just want to say, don't worry, Producer Mark, we will not let anybody know where Producer Mark's wedding is, because if any of those Antifa clowns show up outside Producer Mark's wedding, all bets are off, baby. Old school buck. The trading.
If somebody
will kick
spits
in.
on my bride, they're
a dead man.
Yeah, they are dead.
I know.
Yeah.
I'll be right there with you,
Yeah.
man. It'll be like that scene
that.
in Office Space where they have the fax machine, but it'll actually be some guy from Antifa. That's what'll end up happening. That's one of the best scenes in Office Space, brother. If you haven't seen it, it's like worth going back just because to this day, I think I'm on my 4th printer in my apartment in like 4 years. They always break. There's always a paper.
And they can smell fear. They know when you really need to print something.
When you really need to print something, when you're like desperate to get some form in, or you're gonna like lose your driver's license or something. That's what always happens.
Or when you were in college and you really needed to print the paper, of course.
It's outrageous. So anyway, Office Space. If you haven't seen it, that's my movie rec for the weekend. It is a timeless classic that I'm sure would trigger libs if they watched it today. All right, so what's the latest in this whole saga? Do we call it? I like to call it a farce, a saga. It is a comedy, but it's not funny. We're gonna here's just a general. It's a prediction. It's also an update of what I've been telling you all along, and that is that the more we find out about what has really happened here with the whistleblower and all this, the more this will be just what we had before with Russia collusion, where people this was a setup. This was it was a conspiracy, not a conspiracy theory. This was a conspiracy that there were people who were conspiring out of a maniacal hatred for this president, for what he represents, for the threat to the established order of the elites in this country. And they feel very justified in doing a whole lot of stuff, including up to and including breaking the law in order to harm this president. Well, turns out, and this was an exclusive last night on Tucker's show. Tucker's show's great. Tucker's a fantastic dude, by the way. Just putting that for those. Sometimes I come on, I say that people in media, a lot of them are really bad, really crappy people. It's true, and by the way, it is true of conservatives that you all know too. But I won't. I home team gets a respect, even if there's some mean people on the home team. Mostly libs are the terrible ones, though, just so you know. And there are people like Tucker out there in media who are just awesome. Very talented, great guys, super nice. So the good news is that there's plenty, Shannon Bream is amazing and super talented and nice. I'm going to sit here and go through like 50 people at Fox, but you get what I'm saying. There are some really fantastic people on the right in media. So I know I give the media a hard time, but Fox is like this one outpost of sanity in a crazy world out there. So here's what happened, though, on Tucker's show. This is the exclusive that former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, I think that's the way we're supposed to say it, a key witness in House Democrats' impeachment inquiry, communicated via her personal email account with a Democratic congressional staffer concerning a quite delicate and, that's a quote, and, quote, time-sensitive matter just 2 days after the whistleblower complaint that kickstarted the inquiry was filed and a month before the complaint became public. The emails appear to contradict Yovanovitch's deposition on Capitol Hill last month, in which she told U.S. Representative Lee Zeldin about an email she received on August 14th from the staffer Laura Carey, but indicated under oath that she never responded to it. The communication came from the Foreign Affairs Committee, and they wanted me to come in and talk about, I guess, the circumstances of my departure as ambassador to Ukraine, Yovanovitch testified. I alerted the State Department because I'm still an employee, and so matters are generally handled through the State Department. She then went on to say, so she emailed me, I alerted the State Department, and, asked them to handle the correspondence, and she emailed me again and said, who should I be in touch with? Fox News is told that it is a breach of normal procedure for congressional staff to reach out to a current State Department employee at their personal email address for official business. Yeah, you can say that again. Why would the former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, who is one of the main voices that they point to now to shore up this flimsy impeachment case against the president, why would she want to talk to them about a sensitive matter? Talk to a Democrat House staffer? Doesn't that seem odd? Quite delicate and time sensitive. 2 days. 2 days after the whistleblower complaint. Does anybody want to take the position this is a coincidence? Anyone want to try that one? This is yet another indicator of what I think we've all known has been the case all along. There was a group, really, of Obama administration holdovers, or people that had been in the State Department during the Obama administration, had formulated what they thought was Ukraine policy. Keep in mind, these Ukraine experts, Vindman, Yovanovitch, you've got these different ambassadors that are giving their testimony. So how many envoys and aides and ambassadors and all this stuff do you really need? But conversation for another time. You have all of this happening here, and yet they weren't able to do one of the most important things that could have been accomplished. These so-called Ukraine policy, including Eric Sharamella, whose name is now out there everywhere. We're all talking about it, including yesterday on The View. That was a fiery exchange with one of the president's sons, Donald Trump Jr., and the ladies of The View. I still, though, am stunned by how stupid the analysis is of you're breaking the law by sharing a news story that names the whistleblower when everyone knows the name. So we're really going to embrace this Orwellian world that the left wants us to, where we pretend to not know that which we know. That's going to be the way that the game is played going forward. I don't think so. I don't think we're going to do that. But Yovanovitch talking to a Democrat, of course, a Democrat staffer on Capitol Hill. And they weren't able to get lethal aid to Ukraine, is what I was going to say. They weren't able to convince the Obama administration. All these Ukraine experts care so much about Ukraine, but at the end of the day, they were ineffective. That's right. At the end of the day, for all the complaining about Donald Trump in Ukraine, the fact of the matter is that on the single most important decision about Ukraine that has to do with stopping Russian aggression, Trump got it right, and Obama and all of his so-called experts on Ukraine couldn't get it done. And you could say, well, Buck, it's Obama's choice. They couldn't override him. Well, they really couldn't convince him of this one? Did they try that hard? Because it mattered a lot. But you won't hear that, will you? That Trump policy is more pro-Ukrainian where it counts and how it matters. Just like you won't hear about how Trump was the one who blew up a couple of hundred Russian mercenaries in the desert for attacking our Kurdish allies. But all the Kurds abandoned. We've abandoned all the Kurds. The whole Middle East is going to be a war and genocide. Remember all that stuff? When was the last time you heard about the Kurds, folks? Is there a genocide happening? No? Oh no, Buck. You don't. That's it. Could any day now it's going to happen. Well, if you wait long enough in the Middle East in any region, there's going to be violence to speak of. So can I get a timeline here for when Trump pulling 50 U.S. soldiers out of one part of a country that's been in the midst of a civil war that's killed 500,000 people? Can we get a timeline for when that was clearly not the most catastrophic, horrible decision ever made in foreign policy? Because I think we're already there, folks. But, oh my gosh, ISIS is going to rebound. Really, ISIS is going to rebound? Because the Assad regime and the Russians and the Turks, they all have an interest in, well, the Turks, it's a little more complicated. But the Assad regime and the Russians, they don't want an ISIS resurgence. Do we want them to be fighting ISIS, or do we want to be fighting ISIS? This is... the people think that they've studied and understood the Middle East, and they forget that it's the people who live there who have to ultimately do the fighting. We can't be doing it for them. We're not going to stay forever, although people seem to want to do that in Afghanistan. I just note on different areas of foreign policy, the narrative is never to give credit for Donald Trump on things where he clearly has been better than his predecessor. There's no question. There's no question that he's been better than his predecessor, Barack Obama, in fighting the Islamic State. Just look at the numbers. Look at how rapidly ISIS got rolled up in Syria. And also, by the way, that we can stop calling it ISIL. President Obama wanted to call it ISIL. We're going to stop him. We're going to stop him. ISIL's bad. We're just like, why are we calling them ISIL? No one called them that. So here we have the Ukraine policy dispute playing out again. We find out that another day of this, we find out that Yovanovitch, now that I say the name properly, apparently I'm really having fun with it, had contacted a Democrat staffer in a timeline and in a way, well, which is a strange thing to do. Why would this person in the State Department have contact with a Democrat staffer in the hell? I worked for the CIA for, 5 years? I never just wrote some email to now, this is a State Department person, but I'm just saying, why would somebody who's in the federal government in this way just fire off an email to a staffer about the sensitive matter? Right? Curious, isn't it? But the journos out there are not going to dig into this one. There's no reason to dig into this one. Why would they want to do that? My friends, what I've been saying to you all along is increasingly going to be obviously the case, and that is that they use this, that really the whole Ukraine thing was just meant to get the impeachment proceedings started. It was the excuse to start it. I think what you're going to find is that this impeachment situation, it's a little bit like pretending that General Flynn violated the Logan Act so you can get him on, which is not serious. There's no real charge there, and it would never happen. But they really wanted to get him on lying or, whatever, just to trap him and say, oh, it's such a serious crime to lie to the FBI. Oh, they changed his 302, by the way. They had Lisa Page. Now this has been admitted. And I know I'm jumping around here, but it's Friday, so it's my party, and I'll jump around if I want to. Lisa Page, the lawyer with Strzok, the ones that are like, oh my gosh, Trump is going to be president. I can smell the Trump supporters. Oh, we're Hillary voters. Hillary's great. I mean, anybody who thinks that Hillary is some fantastic person and that alone is reason to vote for her over Trump, I mean, you got to be kidding me, right? Oh yeah, Hillary, paragon of virtue, great person. People I know who have spent a lot of time around her say she's not even nice. She's not even a nice person. But oh yeah, she's great. She's wonderful. Just vote for her. So Lisa Page, the senior FBI lawyer, changed the 30, had some hand in editing General Flynn's 302, and now the position of the federal government involved in this prosecution. These prosecutors who, remember, they want to. It's often partisan, but also within the federal bureaucracy, There are people who just want to defend the institution at all costs, so that can also factor into this. But they changed Flynn's 302, and now we're being told, well, he pleaded guilty, though. Well, yeah, maybe he wouldn't have pleaded guilty if the cops show up, they sit down, they're like, hey, you better take the prosecutor rather sits down and says, hey, you better take a plea because we have a signed confession with your signature on it. And you're like, wait, what? I don't remember signing that. They're like, yeah, you walked in here and we have video of you and you signed it, and maybe you were, I don't know, maybe you were drunk or something, you were high, but you signed this thing. Here's a signed confession, and it's already been, maybe at that point you'd say, okay, I guess I have to take a plea deal here, right? I mean, what's your other? And then if you found it afterwards, oh no, it's fake, right? You didn't sign this. You weren't sleepwalking and signed a confession. Shouldn't you be able to retract that plea deal? I mean, that would seem to be a logical, unjust approach, but they're not looking for logical unjust here. They set up General Flynn. I mean, General Flynn should be all charges. I mean, rather, the whole case against him should be dropped. He should be exonerated. The whole thing should go away. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace to our justice system, the whole thing. But then again, so is the Mueller probe. So at this point, how much more justice system disgrace can we take before we say, enough's enough? Oh, but speaking of perjury, see, I'm bringing it back now, bringing it back full circle. That's how we roll here in the Freedom Hunt. Speaking of full circle, why is Yovanovitch able to lie under oath? I mean, that seems to be what has been admitted here, that she did have contact. Representative Zeldin said, it is greatly concerning that Ambassador Yovanovitch didn't answer my question as honestly as she should have, especially under oath. Roger Stone right now is in a trial for lying, apparently, to the FBI or allegedly lying to federal authorities about non-crimes that no one really doesn't matter, that don't mean anything. They want to send him to prison, though, for years. So if Roger Stone can get sent to prison for lying, under oath or lying to federal authorities, if General Flynn, after 30 years of military service, could get sent to prison for lying, is Ambassador Yovanovitch? Oh, because she's #resistance, and we all know it. Is that why she doesn't get in trouble for this? One of the biggest threats. We often hear from the Democrats, we hear from them about how there's such an undermining of our institutions. One of the biggest threats to the integrity of our institutions of government is the growing perception, and it's real and it is rooted in reality, a growing perception that we have a two-tiered justice system, one for people on the right and one for people on the left. It's a big problem.
I never heard any discussion in my entire tenure as vice president about the 25th Amendment. And why would I? The very notion of this anonymous who wrote an editorial now, it's reported that they've written a book, is just appalling to me. If there's someone in our administration or served in our administration that doesn't support this president, doesn't support his agenda, they should do the honorable thing and resign.
Isn't that pretty straightforward from the vice president there? If there's somebody who really thinks that President Trump is a danger to the republic, a danger to all of us, shouldn't they not work for him and go out in public and say what needs to be said? By the way, look at Anthony Scaramucci. Is he some brave truth teller? I mean, we know that he got on the outs with Trump, and all of a sudden the mooch is like, hey, Trump's the worst. I hate him. He's terrible. I remember the mooch going on. I sat next to him once on a Fox Business show, and he was Mr., Donald Trump is amazing, and he's going to transform politics in this country, and he has a brilliant, genius-level instinct for understanding American politics. And so, and then all of a sudden he's not White House comms director anymore. He's, Trump's the worst ever. He's terrible. But is the mooch so brave? Is the mooch in danger because he criticizes Trump? Why can't the whistleblowers come out?